the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did you see Shane's board?
Yeah, I saw it. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. It's a group of items to be acted upon with a single motion and vote. No, it's not.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah. But we'll start again. The first item on tonight's agenda is the consent agenda, which is a group of items to be acted upon with a single motion and vote. It's designed to expedite the handling of limited routine matters by council. I will ask if a citizen or a council member wishes to have any specific item removed from consent agenda for discussion prior to the council's vote. There are only two items on tonight's consent agenda. They are the approval of the work session and regular meeting minutes of October the 8th, 2019, and approval of the expenditure vouchers of October the 22nd, 2019. Is everybody okay with leaving both of those on the consent agenda?
Yeah, hold on.
In that case, may I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the extra expenditures of $4,834.29.
Second.
Keel.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Carlson. Betts. Sheik.
Aye. We have no presentations tonight. Is there anybody, any citizen that would like to address council on anything that is not on the agenda? Yes, if you'll take the podium, be sure that it's turned on, and state your name and address, please.
This one. Hello.
Do you see the button? Is it green?
It is. It's green.
Okay.
It says live. I'm Sharon King. My address is 225 North Washington. I live here in town. I am the new community Christmas dinner coordinator. I have a letter here that I would love to give you guys. Do you mind if I approach and give you this?
If you just want to hand them and we'll pass them down, that'll save you some time.
So, as Madam Mayor knows, since she's the one who got me involved in all of this 4 years ago,
I've always appreciated
we have a community Christmas dinner every year on Christmas Day. And what makes it so special is that it happens on Christmas Day. And we serve everyone. Everyone is invited, not just the indigent population here in town. There are all kinds of people who show up for this event, as you well know. As a few of you in this room know who have been there and have served. We have whole families that come. We have people who are traveling through and staying in hotels who come to the dinner. One year we had a family that was grieving who was here for a funeral, and they didn't feel like preparing Christmas dinner. And so they came to our county annex, and they sat down and broke bread with us, and I think we managed to cheer them up. We've been doing this now this is our 29th year, and the reason I am here this evening is to talk a little bit about it and to say that John Brooks, who is your event coordinator, has pledged $500 towards the event. And so that money, upon approval of City Council, which will happen possibly in 2 weeks, would really help us put on this dinner. This year, all of our, all of the equipment and everything that we had was stored in a warehouse, and for some reason, it went missing. And so this year, it's going to be particularly difficult to put on this dinner, and I'm doing serious fundraising because we don't have what we usually have every year. We have nothing. We're starting with nothing. And so the City of Cortez, I've talked to your event coordinator and a few different people, and so we're kind of starting with a low budget, and we're looking for $3,000, and we're about a third of the way there. So it's looking pretty good, but that made it important that I came here this evening and talk a little bit about it so that you can understand the importance of the city's involvement. The county, which I will be talking to soon, lets us use the county annex, the kitchen. I have a volunteer coordinator who's been working with me now for a couple of years, Cindy O'Brien. She does a great job because we have generally more than 50 volunteers. People on Christmas Day in this town, 50 of them at least, show up to help us put on this dinner. It is an amazing thing that we do, and I think that's about all I really want to say. And I would love it if you had questions. There's a couple of things that, a couple of details to be coordinated, like dumpsters and possibly a recycle bin right outside so we can cut up all of our cardboard and put it into a recycling bin. But other than that, it's just my sole reason for being here is to say how important this event is and how much I enjoy being a part of it. I've been doing it now for 4 or 5 years, Karen?
I think so.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I have to say, and I appreciate you taking the time to listen.
If people want to volunteer, could you remind people how they do that, please?
At this time, we just got a new fiscal group that we're working with who's handling that part, but as far as I know, the Cortez Cultural Center will still be involved in, we'll put their phone number out and you can call and volunteer there. Truthfully, people just show up. It'd be nice if they called and volunteered and we could put them on a certain place for cleanup, like last year, there was 3 of us cleaning up.
Nobody wants to do that.
This is really low. And in the morning, Brandon, for example, from Stonefish Sushi brings in a whole crew and they carve 30 turkeys. They're there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And then that's when we get started. And then it doesn't really end until about 2 o'clock and our cleanup crew is there till about 3 or 3:30.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay, sorry, I get nervous. My name is Rachel Medina, 411 East First Street. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of council. There are a few concerns I have around the city that I would like to bring to your attention. I understand that budgets are tight, but I think safety should be a priority for city funds. This past weekend was the grand opening of the Bridge Shelter, which was a well-attended event in the public. This highlighted the fact, though, that a crosswalk at Park Street and Empire is necessary. When the Bridge Shelter was being proposed to the Planning and Zoning Commission in June 2018, I made a comment that the current city engineer consider a crosswalk there because businesses and facilities located on the north side of Empire cross that street along Park to get to Centennial Park and beyond on a daily basis. I see no mention of my comments in the city council minutes from June 2018 when this project was approved. This is somewhat discouraging since concern from the Planning Commission should flow back to City Council. I have also raised concerns about a crosswalk light needed to cross Main Street at Elm when the medians were being proposed. This is a busy intersection with many folks crossing to access public facilities on both sides of Main. I am not asking for big, expensive traffic lights. I am asking for the blinking crosswalk lights for the safety of pedestrians in our city. I believe a crosswalk light is warranted at both these intersections. Another concern I have is with the one-way portion of Beach Street from Main to First Street. I travel along First Street on a daily basis, and over the last 2 years, I have witnessed almost weekly someone attempting to or successfully driving up Beach Street in the wrong direction. I think a simple and cost-effective solution would be to add 2 signs. The graphical no turn left or right sign, as I have, one in each direction while traveling on First Street. I am lucky to know several city staff members on a personal basis, so some of my other concerns in the city have been heard and addressed by complaining to the right people. But that is a privilege that not every citizen in Cortez has. Are their concerns being heard, or are they pushed under the rug with the guise that we don't have the funding or we are too busy for projects? Serving on the city's Planning and Zoning Commission for the past few years, as well as city's Parks and Rec Board, and being an active member of the community has led to my desire to join you next year behind the dais to help with citizens of this great community. I hope to continue to improve our quality of life here in Cortez by running for city council next year. Thank you.
Thank you. I will tell you, Rachel, that I have office hours twice a month. I will meet with any citizen anytime they call or contact me. And when they do, I do follow up. And staff has been very receptive. So I think it's a question not so much of the city not being interested or using the excuse that we don't have any money to spend or brushing it under the rug is really not valid. I think when citizens come, an effort is made to address their concerns. If we can fix it, I think staff works really hard to do that. We certainly are willing to listen, and sometimes it's a question of just misinformation or misunderstanding, and just talking to the right person, like you've said, can make a big difference. So I would put out the plea tonight that if citizens have concerns, come and see me during mayor's hours, call or contact any of your council members, and feel free to call city staff. City government's here to help their citizens, but the citizens have to, I can't fix something I don't know about. So, thank you for coming. Are there any other citizens? Well, I have something. I had a citizen that contacted me last week. She is not able to be here this evening, so she sent me a text and asked that I read it. Madam Mayor and council members, I'm Lynette Candelaria Mitchell, and for the past 3 to 4 years, my neighborhood has participated in the Green Light Event program. By simply placing a green light in a window or porch light facing the street, we acknowledge support and appreciation for the service of our veterans during the month of November. I thought this display might be something that our entire community could do. The light may be on day or night, or all the time. I'd like to ask for your help in promoting green lights in businesses and neighborhoods. Ron from Walmart is getting a supply of green bulbs in shortly. In fact, they may even be here now. And at this time, I haven't heard of the date of their arrival. Thank you for your time and for your consideration. I did follow up. I talked with Tammy Lindsay today, just to see what the Lindsay family's feelings on this would be, and they would very much appreciate the promotion of some kind of a program of recognition like this. So, Veterans Day is on the 11th of November. This is the last meeting that council will have between now and then to talk about this issue, but it may be something for us to think about and then possibly talk about it at the end of the meeting as far as providing some support for this in our community. We're not talking about it costing anything. Nobody has to register or sign up. It would just be a way of us promoting thoughtfulness towards those people who have served in our armed forces. So, any discussion? All right. Public hearings. Resolution number 24, Series 2019. Council will consider approving a conditional use permit to establish a hemp extraction facility. Neva.
All right, good evening. So the city's received a conditional use permit for a facility that extracts cannabidiol, or CBD, from hemp in a building located at 1480 Industrial Road. The applicant, Xenon Labs LLC, proposes to extract the CBD from hemp using a carbon dioxide extraction process. The property is 2.33 acres and is zoned industrial with an existing 5,500 square foot building. Under the land use code, this type of manufacturing requires a conditional use permit. No exterior construction is planned for this building, so the footprint will remain the same. Xenon Labs will create CBD-infused products using carbon dioxide as the extractive solvent. The CBD will be extracted from hemp and used in various products. The applicant proposes to use a system called Apex Supercritical CO2 extraction. It's received engineering review and meets the International Fire Code and various code standards. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this project October 1st and did recommend approval for this proposal. So the land use code has regulations for parking. The industrial facilities require 1 space per 400 square feet. And this building has 10 parking spaces with the loading area meeting the requirements of the land use code. Because this is a conditional use permit, the project's reviewed for 7 review criteria. The first one is that the proposed conditional use is compatible with adjacent existing uses. The applicant does not propose to change the exterior of the building. The extraction process is a closed-loop process with no carbon dioxide lost to the surrounding environment. The manufacturing will take place entirely within the building, and there is no proposed dust, noise, etc. Because there is an existing loading area and the circulation on the site is in place, it should not impact traffic circulation or parking. Criteria 2 is that the proposed conditional use has incorporated design features sufficient to protect adjacent uses. The access to this building and the parking lot are existing and not expected to change, so there will be no changes to that. Criteria 3 is that all proposed accessory uses must demonstrate that they are necessary and desirable, and there are no proposed accessory uses for this project. Adequate public services are already available for this structure and should not cause a reduction in services. Criteria 5 requires proper maintenance of the building. The applicant will be required to maintain the properties according to the city code. And criteria 6 is that the proposed conditional use shall conform to adopted plans, hours of operation, etc. The land use code does not have hours of operation standards for businesses within the industrial zoning, but I do believe the applicant proposes to operate within normal business hours. The proposed use does conform to parking and loading standards, and CDOT does not have a concern with highway access. Like all of our projects, the proposal was forwarded to city departments and affected agencies and utilities. Their official comments are included in the report. The Montezuma County Planning Director did have questions about traffic concerns, and the applicant has responded to that. They're expecting delivery once a week with 1 truck for their hemp delivery. If the traffic load is too much for the county roads, they can stick to 491 and using city roads only, so that shouldn't be an issue. The sanitation district did have concerns about some of the byproducts that may make their way into the sewer system. The applicant has explained that most of this is a closed loop system and that no products will be released into the sanitation system. There was a question about ethanol disposal, since that will be used in the cleaning of the machine, and the applicant has responded that the ethanol will be disposed in 5-gallon containers. But for the most part, this ethanol is recycled, so that may take forever. I did some of my own research on ethanol disposal, and most ethanol disposal is safe for the drain unless it's in very high concentrations of over 24% ethanol. Ethanol is what we can drink at times, and so most chemistry labs do say it's safe to go straight down the drain, even if they do store it in 5-gallon containers. So anyway, let's see. Our city attorney asked how the hemp will be stored and if there's fire danger, similar to hay storage. The applicants had planned to store the hemp on the second floor, but because of its factory rating, our fire inspector said that everything will have to be stored on the first floor. The applicant has responded that there are 2 rooms that the hemp can be stored in on the first floor, and that it shouldn't be an issue, and that they're working with quantities that shouldn't cause the hemp will be stored in environmentally controlled atmospheres, so there shouldn't be concerns of dust fires. Okay, the fire official wanted to know the amount and quantity of carbon dioxide contained on site, and where the hemp comes from and how it is shipped, and the THC equivalent for the extraction. So the THC equivalent is regulated by the state. It does have to be equal or less than 0.3% THC. They're expecting 1,000 pounds of hemp delivered on a weekly basis. And that the CO2 will be contained in a 45-liter vessel. So our fire inspector didn't have concerns with the responses. Other than that, there didn't seem to be any other issues. The project does meet a couple comprehensive goals and policies, including sustaining a well-balanced and diverse local economy. The hemp is coming from local sources, which is also an ongoing objective of our comp plan, which is to sustain and enhance local agriculture. And it does meet goal 4.5 of the comp plan to expand infill and rehabilitation opportunities within city limits. So I think that is about it for this project.
And you say the hemp will be stored on the first floor? There's plenty of room
it has to
do
be.
that?
Yeah, because this project turns the facility into a factory rating. Basically, the second floor of that building cannot be used for anything. And the applicant does have 2 unused rooms that can be used to store the hemp. So on the first floor. Yeah.
All right, council, are there any other questions?
I have a number of questions.
Yes.
Okay.
First off, I just want to understand under our ordinance the distinction between hemp and marijuana. Mike Green.
We don't have an ordinance regarding hemp. Marijuana has THC, hemp does not. And so that's the distinction.
So here's my next question. We had a person approach our council a few years ago requesting to do marijuana extractions, and we declined that person because of odor, distance requirements, and I believe a lack of law enforcement. So my question is, how is this distinctly different from that person that we declined for the industrial park?
It's not marijuana, it's not hash oil, it's hemp oil, and it's a totally different product.
But the odor would still exist, correct? No?
I can't say.
Okay. And
Who could? I would have thought Canada would have looked into this. Do they have a ventilation system with this, with the extraction process? Do we know? Is it
I'm not sure.
air scrub coming out of this? Is it?
I don't think so. I do know the process can be used for things like lavender extraction and other sorts of herb extraction. And we do have the applicants here, so perhaps they can answer the question as far as
Do you want to
odor.
come to the podium? Who gets the short end of the straw?
yes,
One of the reasons we denied applications to process hemp oil was also for marijuana, hash oil was illegal in general because of the fire hazard.
Sure, I understand that, but I'm just wondering, does it trigger, I understand that we set our own distance provisions, but I understand that the state legislature also has some distance requirements with regards to dispensaries, if I'm not correct. So is there a difference distinctly between having Medicine Man right there and right down the hill, an industrial hemp processing plant? Does that trigger any of the state statutes or state regulations?
Unaware that marijuana and hemp have any.
And so is that something though that we probably need to figure out before we authorize this?
At this particular point in time, I guess I'm unsure of the question. There was some staff decisions that we weren't going to create another regulatory schematic for hemp, and so we didn't get into distance requirements.
I guess one of the things that's triggering with me is I understand the difference between industrial hemp and marijuana, and I understand that some have THC and CBD, but I think there's some people who may not understand that difference, and we express safety as a concern for the proposed marijuana processing facility because of theft, and I'm concerned that we might, even if I understand they're not going to get intoxicated off of this, that doesn't necessarily prevent people from attempting, and that's a concern I have.
What we decided on hash oil not being produced was because at the time, it was 8 out of 10 times it was considered an extremely explosive process, and across the state, extraction facilities were blowing up, catching on fire, causing damages. What I've learned since that one was refused, and basically it wasn't refused, we just said we're not changing the ordinance at the time, was that there are now UL approved and safe methods of extraction according to Inspector Canada that can be put in place so that this would not be the explosion flammable situation as before. And so that was one reason for the big change. And so that's the main criteria right now. Also, our current ordinance doesn't cover hemp oil. It only covers hash oil. And it was my understanding from speaking with the planners that extractions are legal and safe in the industrial park, and I think it's the only place in town right now for oil extraction to take place. And so that was the reason it's normal for the things you're describing to take place there.
But we're sure we're in compliance with CDHS regulations if we authorize something like this?
That was my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, we should be. The difference is basically THC. And so since this process is using hemp, not cannabis, then the THC is, there is no THC. So.
What, by local, what do they mean local?
Montezuma County area. They're going to try, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And security, are they responsible for the same type of security that a dispensary would have to have?
No, they're not. Again,
Cameras?
It's basically the THC, no THC.
Access via that road, can it handle a larger piece of equipment, i.e. a large truck? Can it make those radiuses?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
I have none. Thanks, Neva.
Is there something you'd like to add?
No, not at all. If you guys have any questions, it's okay.
Do you have any plans to do any sort of odor remediation?
Could they push the
button so it's green?
If that would be a problem, yeah, of course we could do some type of ventilation if you guys would want. But whatever you guys want,
Have you been in a CBD processing facility yourself?
We haven't. So for the order, we're gonna have. We're representing for our sister Marlene. She's not here right now. She lives in Atlanta, but she's been doing all this process to helping us out. So these bags that the hemp is going to be stored in is going to help a lot with the order to keep it away too. Also for safety. We have not. We researched a lot about the order, and we haven't really seen much about that, you know? That's the first time we kind of heard about this right now, you know? So I can't give you a straight answer about this right now. So,
Well, and I don't know that it's an issue. It was just a reason
Yeah.
we denied somebody in the past. That's why I was asking.
yes, correct, yeah. And like my brother said, excuse me, if there's any other questions, you know, we've been doing our best, you know, we just like we said, we're gonna try to give all the local farmers the business for them, you know, because we know we have talked to different farmers, you know, and just to try to keep it local for them, you know, they will love that, you know, and also provide them like we spoke about the last meeting, the service for them to extract oil for them too, you know. So we're not going to be basically just to ourselves. We're going to give that openings to the if they have the permission to do that as well.
Any other questions?
Karen, I need their names for the record.
Sorry. Yes, could you give us your name?
My name is Victor Nunez,
And your address?
624 Lewis Lane here in Cortez.
Benny Nunez, 534 Gerald's Way.
Okay, that was Gerald's Way. Okay.
Okay, and I think I have a little bit more to add. I'm reading their Xenon Labs petition letter in the staff report, and this is regarding the odor. I know the plants themselves will have the odor, but they are being stored inside a room inside of a warehouse. And as far as the extraction goes, it's a closed system loop where the CO2, which is the gas that could be released, is being run through again and again, and it's recaptured. 90% of the gas is recaptured. So based on that, I don't believe that odor for this particular Apex supercritical system is going to be an issue.
Okay.
Did you say it's not going to be an issue?
I am assuming it's not going to be an issue unless the 10% of CO2 that's released with this process is extremely powerful and stinky. I don't know. So,
I was going to mention also too, what Ty brought in, the security is brought in, because all the other, like you said, I know it's not marijuana, but they don't have to put all the security cameras and all that stuff in there?
they're not required to do any of that. No, that would be, I mean, if they want to for their own security, but the city's not requiring that. Again, because it's not cannabis, and so it doesn't have the THC, which seems to be the concern with our ordinance, so, yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions? All right, then I'm opening this up for a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against the installation of this business in the industrial park. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening, Lana Waters, 16415, County Road 21.4, Cortez. First of all, as a neighbor in the industrial park, one thing I am concerned with is the odor. This piece of property does border Carpenter Natural Area, and it does border Gear Natural Area is there as well. Also, just to the northeast of that is the pond where the city has recently purchased a piece of property next to that pond where you're going to have fishermen and people like that at that pond, so odor is kind of a concern. With that being said, I am pro-business and I am pro-growth. I believe that I heard in a meeting somewhere that a comparison between the existing land use code and the proposed land use code of developments or uses that would come before the city council would be great. But since this hasn't been done, we decided to take this on ourselves. So according to the proposed new land use code, Section 1.01.04A1, any conditional use on any property would trigger the new land use code to be coming into effect. First, we could not find a classification for hemp processing, so we kind of took a more conservative approach when looking at the code. So being located in the industrial park, this building would not be subject to decorative facade, but it would be subject to landscaping and buffering. And according to 7.02.04 Type B classification, which is kind of the middle of the road requirement for the buffering, the proposed site, like I said before, borders the Carpenter Natural Area for approximately 230 lineal feet, requiring 3 overstory deciduous trees, 3 evergreen trees, 3 ornamental trees, and 30 shrubs. Along the public right-of-way for approximately 355 lineal feet, it would require 4 overstory deciduous trees, 4 evergreen trees, and 4 ornamental trees, and 40 shrubs. I called the local nursery to get an average cost on the trees and the shrubs. That would amount to about $7,700. I then called a local landscape company to get a price on planting and an irrigation drip system, which you shall have according to the land use code. They told me it would be approximately $20,000 to install the plants and the drip system. Section 7.02.04E also states that a minimum of a 6-foot fence wall would be needed as part of the buffer yard along the side bordering Carpenter. And we felt like a conservative price for that would be $20 per lineal foot for a cost of $12,300. The total estimated cost for this buffering would be estimated at $40,000. So I ask, is this an added cost, something a new business can afford? And because there was no comparison included in the packet, we had limited time to research it, so it's very possible there would even be more restrictions. We just ask your applicant and see if they would still be able to achieve starting up a business and investing $40,000 into a property that's not even theirs. And this is just a temporary use, not a permanent use. So anything that would go in there, they're going to have to put that buffering in when the land use code comes in.
Good
Thank you.
timing. You hit it right on the nose. I see. My understanding of the proposed land use codes is that it would apply to new construction or improvements to this facade. And this is an existing building owned by Jennifer and Douglas Yearout. It sounds like they would be taking over the building and utilizing it as is my understanding. So I don't know that the land use code would apply. Is that correct, Mr. Green?
David, can you answer that?
I think it would be better to ask
Tracy?
Ms. Hughes, because I'm going to just pass on that.
Yeah, I think Jill got that right. They're not expanding the development there, so they would not be required to any of those that Mrs. Waters brought up.
My name is Dave Waters, 16415 County Road 21.4, and I'm here to tell you you're wrong. Read 1.01.04, and it specifically says any new uses, any new expansion. So they would be subject to the new land use code. And if you've got it there, if you can read it to the city council. And I really would like somebody on the city council to ask these people who are trying to start a new business in Cortez if they would be able to afford an extra $40,000 investment in somebody else's property in order to do their business. I really would appreciate that. Thank you.
They are not going under this new land use code. The rules that they need to follow right now are under existing land use code. So at this point, thank you for your comments, but they don't apply to this project.
Well, we're talking right now about a public hearing on this particular business, so. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Yes.
And if this is going to be if something that's needed, we will do the requirements that has to be done in this property, even though this property is not ours. But we understand if there's things that we have to do to the property, then we
Of
understand.
course, they'll be done, even if it's just $40,000. They can be done.
Yeah, you know,
There's a
so,
lot of money being invested in this, and that's probably the least of our worries.
yeah, we want to make sure we don't have no problems, you know, and follow whatever has to be followed, you know, and, you know, so that's all we have to say, you know, about that, you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Just to
Thank you.
clarify, to go along with what Mr. and Mrs. Waters said, it does say under section 1.01.04, paragraph A, paragraph 1, the use of any building, structure, or land, this includes new uses, expansions, and material changes to the operational characteristics of existing uses. That's on the proposed land use code, the new language.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against this business?
What's the existing?
I don't know, I can look and see. I can look at the old one.
All right, at this time, I'm going to close the public hearing. Are there any additional questions, comments from council?
Jill just read the proposed, correct?
Yes,
So
that's
what's
correct.
the
Hold on, I will look
existing?
at the existing code and let you know. The same section here.
There's no requirements, is there?
The conditional use permit is a requirement.
The only one.
So there's no requirements for buffering or landscaping as exists now?
No.
Yeah, and the corresponding section that would be in the existing land use code is actually under a different heading. It's under minimum standards, conflict with private restrictions. And so it's a different component. It doesn't match up to the same heading.
All right, if there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion, please?
Come on, somebody step up.
Yeah, I'm looking for what page it's on.
I'll make it.
It's a H.
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to establish a hemp extraction facility at 1480 Industrial Road in the Industrial Zoning District, as submitted by Xenon Labs Limited Liability Company, representative for owner Douglas Yearout, through Council Resolution Number 24, Series 2019, with conditions.
Second. Lucero?
Nay.
Carlson?
Nay.
Keel? Betts?
Aye.
Sue, you voted no?
Yes, ma'am.
Noyes?
Aye.
Sheep?
Aye.
So it's a 3-3, so it fails. It's a 3-3 vote, it fails.
We're missing a council member tonight, so we're in kind of uncharted territory here. We have a 3-3, which requires it to be tabled for another vote. It'll advance
No, the vote fails.
at a tie.
Correct.
That's silly.
I would be interested if this is brought back on some more information on odor remediation, if that can be done.
Yeah, bring it.
Yeah, I'm certain that can be done.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit
It didn't
confused
pass.
as the reason that I'm saying nay.
They'd have to reapply, correct?
I don't think so. I think what Linda's saying is that it will advance to another vote. Is that correct?
No, it doesn't.
Fail. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
The motion,
So as far as odor,
They need to be at the microphone, Karen. They need to be up at the
Yeah,
microphone.
I'm sorry, you need to go to the mic. Stand at the one that's a little taller. I think it might be easier to understand you.
I'm not worried about that.
This is the light.
I think the odor is what I'm concerned about.
So the odor, I'm guessing, is a big concern. We haven't really got into that, but I know our product will be vacuum sealed. It'll be in a sealed environment. It won't be stored outside, it'll be stored inside, where there can be ventilation, whatever you guys wanted. As far as you being confused, you could ask anything. But yeah, any questions, we'd love to answer.
I have none. I think all of us have driven down Main Street on a hot summer day and had the wafting odor of marijuana in our face. I think that's, I mean, it's already, you can already smell it in this town. I think their process is pretty benign, according to what I know about it. It is not the same product that we're smelling going down Main Street. So
Right.
I'm not sure that's a good argument for not wanting this facility. But unfortunately, the vote's been cast.
I'd like to just clarify, it's not about wanting this facility, but I've asked a number of people in here today about odor remediation, and every single one of them has said, I don't know, I haven't looked into that.
Yeah, well.
Every single individual.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's not about not wanting it, it's about having an unanswered question where we previously denied another request similar, and I understand it was marijuana versus hemp. But I feel like that we're engaging in disparate treatment if we don't make them go through the same steps we made that other applicant to go through.
Right, well, and that was clear in the vote at a timings that unfortunately it failed.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Just to clarify, is this something, and Mike, maybe you're the one that needs to answer this, is this something that they can go back and do some additional research and get some answers to questions that council members seem to have, so that, can it be brought back to council, or does this make it a dead issue at this point?
They can come back with essentially a reapplication and see if these issues, and see if these issues can be remediated. Quite honestly, when I looked at it, I think the smell was something we were going to have to deal with because it was going to be unknown as far as oil extraction, what odors we were going to have. We don't have any oil extraction in the city, marijuana or hemp, to compare it to. And so that's why we didn't really look at it, because we didn't know, and we were going to work our way through it, was my intent. But these folks can look into this. They can meet with Mr. Canada. Sean Canada would be the fellow to talk to. And you could figure out whether you're going to have an odor and what you can do to take care of that odor with the product.
I would also encourage you gentlemen to maybe look at other communities that do this. Get information from communities that are already in this process. Talk not only to the owners of companies that do this extraction, talk to people within the community and actually ask them, what kind of odors are they experiencing? Just so you're not just getting a biased opinion. Maybe that would help if you guys choose to reapply. So.
All right, and if you have questions, talk to staff. Okay? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
The next public hearing is on resolution number 25, series 2019, approving site development plan for the development of a car sales lot located on West Main. Neva.
The City of Cortez has received an application to convert a variously occupied paved lot into a used car sales lot at 401 West Main Street. The applicant is John Hager, and he is representing owner Glenn Layton. He's applied for a site plan to install a 12 by 56 mobile office with 3 customer parking spaces and multiple planters for the landscaping requirement for a pre-owned car sales lot. The lot is just over half an acre in size and is used throughout the week and weekends as a sort of swap meet flea market area. The zoning is commercial highway, and the City of Cortez Land Use Code requires a site plan for any new development. The office will be tied into the sewer, water, and fiber network. All of these utilities are located in the alley just south of the property. The former director of planning and building stated to the applicant that the mobile building will conform to the building requirements as long as it's handicapped accessible with sanitation and city water installed, and the applicant does agree and has a plan to do that. The site currently is entirely paved and has curb and sidewalk on the north and east side of the streets. The applicant proposes to use an existing in-ground planting area and portable planters to meet the Land Use Code's 10% landscaping requirements. The applicant does propose to restrict ingress and egress to Maple Street only and not use Main Street, which conforms to the Colorado Department of Transportation's restrictions on this property. As I mentioned, the current use of the property has been a long-term swap meet with intense use over the weekends and fewer vendors throughout the week. The applicant expects 2 to 5 customers throughout the day with an increased traffic, slight increase on weekend traffic. He estimates selling between 20 to 30 cars during the busy season from April to August and 15 to 20 from September to March. The Planning and Zoning Commission did review this project on October 1st and did recommend approval with conditions stated in the resolution. Okay. So according to the site plan that the applicants have given us, the building height, the lot coverage, the setbacks, and the minimum lot size all meet the land use requirements. Staff looked at parking requirements, and for this type of use, the applicant's required to have 1 parking space per 300 square feet. The mobile office is 672 square feet and requires 3 parking spaces, which the applicant is providing. The applicant has proposed to landscape 10% of the area. Because the site is entirely paved, the new development is limited to the parking spaces in the mobile office for a total of just over 1,600 square feet of newly developed area. The applicant is required to install 164 square feet of landscaping and has provided 270 square feet of landscaping. Excuse me. Due to the lease conditions, the applicant can only have mobile installations that do not require the paving, which is why he's proposing to use mobile planters. The landscaping will not be installed until the spring of 2020. And so prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant must provide the city with an irrevocable letter of credit to ensure the landscaping will be installed. Additionally, the landscaping plan and plants shall be approved by the City of Cortez Parks and Rec Department. The applicant has expressed interest in working with the city park staff to coordinate his plant species with the ongoing downtown planting theme. So this was sent out to all the public agencies and city departments, and there were very little concerns from the agencies. They are restricting access to Maple Street only, so cars will not be coming in and out from Main Street. And actually, the applicant plans to block any ingress and egress cutouts from Main Street with either cars or some of the planters. I think for this project, I think that's about all that I have for this particular project. I'm willing to take questions.
I have no questions.
Council, does anybody else have a question?
Do the buses still use that alleyway behind there for the middle school?
You know, I don't know, but the alleyway is not changing.
Right.
There may-
It really doesn't come into play at all, does it?
Well, it would come in, well, no, because you can't, the property line's on the other side of the alley, so it's not going to change.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks. That's the only question I have.
Okay. Anything else? Pardon? No. I would guess not.
Do we know if this is gonna vacate, do you know, I mean, you might not, but is Mr. Hager gonna shut down the lot that he's got on the other end of town? If this is approved?
I believe that's his plan, yes. Yeah, he's not going to be operating 2 lots.
Anything else, council?
I have nothing.
All right, at this point, I will open up to a public hearing. If anybody would like to speak for or against the establishment of this business at this site. Okay, seeing no takers. Closing the public hearing. If there are no other questions or no other comments, may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve Resolution Number 25, Series 2019, approving a site development plan for the development of a car sales lot located at 401 West Main Street as submitted by John Hager, representing property owner Glenn Layton, with 3 conditions.
Second.
Noyes?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Betts?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Cheek?
Aye. All right. Step one. Thanks. All right, we have some unfinished business, which is an emergency ordinance to consider approving or accepting the offer from Montezuma County to purchase city property. Mike?
You have a memo in your file or your packet from Manager Doherty explaining the background to this. What we're doing tonight is an emergency motion and public hearing. This is a matter of, as you've heard, the sheriff is going to use this as an evidence room. He needs to get his evidence out of, I think it's in a school building, and out of the basement and into a more secure place. So time is of the essence. It meets the statutory requirements and charter requirements. So we would be holding the public hearing this evening, and this would become effective upon passage this evening. The closing is scheduled for tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. The mayor would also be authorized to sign the closing documents and the deed, which there's a copy of in your, I guess we'll call it the table setting that you folks received. The deed's been approved by the title insurance company. The county's looked at it. Mr. Williamson's looked at it. So we're set. So staff's recommendation is that you approve this ordinance at first and final reading after a public hearing.
I just have one question. Karen, you had amended something, it's about 10 pages in, the change of status. You amended the date on that?
And that was something that we needed to do. I can't remember now when I went down and talked to Ken about it. Can you give me the page on that?
It doesn't have a specific page number, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Which document is it in there?
It's on the document that's entitled Change of Status Transaction Brokerage Disclosure. And there's a date, it's signed October 9th by Mr. Candelaria and Mayor Sheik. But then it says there's an exclusive right to buy contract dated 10/8/2019, and it's backdated to 8/30 with Karen's initials out to the left.
And I think that may have been when it first came under discussion. I think that's the reason why that date was changed.
Okay, and so I...
Correctly what Ken's explanation of that was.
Okay. Oh, it's reverse, I see. Okay.
Are there any other questions?
What is that change? Exclusive right to buy contract dated 8/30?
Just out of curiosity, since it was a change.
I believe is all that is that Ken is, when you hired him, he was a seller's agent, and after we heard this in an open meeting, he became a transaction broker. So he's working for the transaction between us and not a seller's agent. That's a disclosure statement that he has to provide that says he's working for the transaction and not a seller's agent.
Yeah,
So it
and I
just-
think he reminded us
And I
of
say,
that.
so it just backdated the change in position for him.
Correct, to
Okay,
get back
all
to
right.
where we first originally had made the offer.
Yeah, I remember him mentioning that.
I do remember that as well.
So,
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
I have no additional questions.
Anybody else?
Nope.
In that case, may I have a motion, please?
We need to
Honorable
open it
Mayor.
up for a public hearing.
I'm sorry, what?
Thank you,
Open
public
it up
hearing.
for a public hearing, please.
Oh, well, it wasn't listed
It
under
was
public
under
hearings, it was listed
unfinished
under
business.
unfinished business.
It's not a public hearing.
No, first and final.
It should have been one because it's an ordinance and we would do it first and final.
It's an ordinance.
Yes, ma'am. you have to have
Emergency
an
ordinance.
Okay.
to sell real estate.
Jim, okay. Go
Will you
ahead.
open it for a public hearing?
Yes. We're opening it to a public hearing, apparently. Do you wish to, would you just...
I'm just saying, thank you from the county to the city for, being able to find a structure like this and repurpose it. It'll serve our needs well. I think it benefits both of us, the city and the county. We serve the same constituency, and I hope this can get done, and we can close tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So thank you.
Okay. Well, then, I'm opening it up for a public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against the sale of this property to the county? Okay. Seeing nobody step forward, the public hearing is closed at this time. If there are no other questions or comments, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I'd make a motion to approve emergency ordinance number 1270, series 2019, accepting the offer of $225,000 from Montezuma County for the purchase of the property located at 25306 County Road L, also known as the Four Corners Office Building in Cortez, with the proceeds from the sale of the property to be segregated from other funds for future development of the industrial park property.
Second. Betts? Aye. Noyes?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Carlson?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Sheik?
Aye. I'll be there at 10 o'clock tomorrow.
Mountain time or
Mountains.
standard?
Daylights, I think we're still on daylight savings time, aren't we? All right, under new business, Resolution 23, Series 2019, changes in the city employee handbook. Matt?
Evening, council. Thank you for being here. It's good business practice from time to time to have the employee handbook reviewed. It's been reviewed by Employers Council and Mr. Mike Green. We discussed changes at the workshop on 9/24/19. And then I did have, there was a late email out to you guys. There was 6 pages that still had a 2019 date on there, so those were just updated to 2020. Initially, I had hopes of getting this out in 2019, but that didn't happen. So does anybody have any questions about any of that? I think you all got a updated, clean copy.
Any council members have any questions on that?
I don't have any.
Okay.
I have none, thanks.
Nope. In that case, if there are no questions or comments, may I have a motion?
I make a motion approving resolution number 23, series 2019, approving the changes to the city employee handbook effective January 1st, 2020.
Second.
Carlson?
Aye.
Noyes?
Aye.
Keel?
Aye.
Lucero?
Aye.
Betts? Aye. Sheik?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, item, ordinance number 1269, Series 2019, that has to do with vacation between 2 tracts of property in the Mountain View subdivision requested by Rosie Carter. Tracy?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council. So the property is located at 50 East Carpenter, and it is the Montview addition. And again, this is a request to vacate an alley. The alley dead ends at the edge of the east side of the property, basically, and it doesn't actually serve anyone other than the property owner at the current time. And typically, when you vacate an alley, the land would go half to each adjacent landowner. So in this situation, it would consolidate the landowner's north tract and the south tract into one lot. No utility company had any issue with this. There are no utilities in that area. The city public works director was okay with the alley vacation as the city has no use for this, and the city manager had no objections. There are review criteria in the land use code, which is it must not conflict with adopted policies or plans. It shall not create a landlocked parcel of land. It shall not restrict the access of any parcel so that access is unreasonable or economically prohibitive, and it shall not result in adverse impacts on the health, safety, and/or general welfare of the general community, and it shall not reduce the quality of public facilities or services provided to any parcel of land. For example, fire, police protection, accesses, or public utility services. So essentially, we've had no negative comments. Adjacent landowners were sent information prior to the Planning Commission meeting. They will again be sent information prior to the second reading and the hearing for this ordinance, but we haven't heard anything from adjacent landowners as of this date. So with that, we recommend setting the ordinance for second reading on November 12th.
All right, council, are there any questions or comments on this?
I have none.
I don't have any.
No. Then may I have a motion, please?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 1269, Series 2019, an alley vacation between tracks C and D of the Montview subdivision as requested by Rosie Carter, set for a public hearing on November 12th, 2019.
Second.
Keel.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Betts. Aye. Noyes.
Aye.
Sheep.
Aye. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a quasi-judicial item with regards to setting a hearing date for a new retail marijuana cultivation license for Mountain Annie's, which would be taking over for Medicine Man. City Council will sit as a quasi-judicial body and is restricted to making its findings of facts on evidence that are presented to them at this hearing. No member of City Council should receive or solicit comments from any persons regarding a matter pending before City Council prior to the formal hearing itself. And if anyone has had any contact on this matter, it's imperative that you advise council and consider recusing yourself. So I ask the question, has anybody had any contact or any discussion regarding this particular issue prior to this night's hearing?
I haven't.
What we would be looking at doing tonight is asking. Thank you. What we'd be looking tonight at doing is asking council to set a public hearing for a new retail marijuana cultivation license for Mountain Annie's LLC, which I think is formerly Medicine Man on Main Street. Technically, this is the approval of a state license. It's not a local license. We don't have those for retail. We approve the state license. And so we're asking that you set this for the public hearing and we can move forward.
And it would be at the next,
It'd be at November 12th, 2019.
Right. Okay. All right, council, may I have a motion?
Honorable Mayor, I make a motion to set a public hearing date of November 12th, 2019 for the review of a new retail cultivation license for Mountain Annie's LLC, doing business as the Medicine Man, located at 310 East Main Street, Cortez.
Second.
Keel.
Aye.
Betts. Aye. Noyes.
Aye.
Lucero.
Aye.
Carlson.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. All right, the next item is a letter of support for Montezuma County requesting a GOCO grant for improvements at McPhee Reservoir. I believe all the council members received information prior to the packets being distributed for tonight's council meeting. And James Dietrich is also here to answer any questions that you might have about this grant. You want to introduce yourself? So be sure your mic is on, James, too.
I'm James Dietrich, and I work for the Natural Resources Department for Montezuma County. As most of you probably know, we've been working on a breakwater project for quite a while up at McPhee Reservoir. In 2015, we were able to accomplish about 300 feet of breakwater. And for those of you that have been up there to the lake, you've probably been able to see it. It's constructed out of those big, heavy tires. Its placement right now works really well when the water is very, very low. However, it just doesn't have enough length to actually provide the correct amount of wave attenuation for the launch when the water is up. In other words, it is just too far out there and it has just too little length. So we've been doing some research on that to try to work on phase 2 to give ourselves a little bit of better length up there. We've researched some other products, and we feel like the Wave Eater product is it's a much more affordable product. It's very lightweight. It's made out of, it's essentially like the kind of lane demarcators in a swimming pool, except at a much larger scale. And so we feel like it's a much more affordable approach to providing the length that we need. And so we are going to go to the GOCO, and we're requesting $350,000 to help provide an extra 600 feet of wave attenuator. And that should provide good protection for the launch area, as well as provide area for a marina operation to get going. Primarily, this is a public access project. It will provide better public safety for people launching boats and provide better opportunity especially for those that are novice boaters to be able to get out there on the water more safely. And it also does provide opportunity for non-motorized watercraft to launch in that area as well. A lot of those folks like to be able to drive the vehicle right down the launch ramp to unload a kayak or stand-up paddleboard, whatever they got. So we feel like this will be an excellent project to help provide that public accessibility. And of course, there is also the economic component to it. And we do feel like that we're growing kind of a recreation base in Montezuma County, and that should be something that we're looking at to help provide a more resilient economy. And we do feel like the reservoir up there is a really good resource for us to tap into. I think, the city of Cortez, for those of us that live here, I think there's a really big benefit for the city. Most of the boating population probably actually resides in Cortez. We fill the boats up before we head up, stop off at the grocery store and Walmart, that kind of thing. So there is the economic component to it. And what we really get excited about seeing is new dollars into the community. And some of our research has indicated that we've got a fairly good transient boat market, and we're capturing some of that market that comes out of particularly the Farmington, New Mexico area. Obviously, those guys are cooking down there in the summer, and McPhee looks pretty attractive to them in July. So we're just asking for a letter of support then for this project, and again, we're asking for $350,000 from GOCO, and we will be matching that with an additional $138,000. This is a $488,000 project.
Council, are there any questions?
This is just to add on to what you already have, right? Or are you going to move that to another place?
This will add on to what we've got, yes.
Okay.
So we'll have 900 feet, which will provide very good protection up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, in that case, may I have a motion, please?
I make a motion make a motion to approve a letter of support for Montezuma County applying for a GOCO grant to complete improvements at McPhee Reservoir. Did I get that all in there?
You got it.
Second.
Lucero.
Aye.
Carlson. Aye. Keel.
Aye.
Betts.
Aye.
Noyes.
Aye.
Sheik.
Aye. If you want to stick around a little bit after the council meeting, we'll get you the letter.
Okay.
And you can just take it with you tonight. I guess. All righty. We have no draft resolutions, no other items of business at this time. Are there any citizens that would like to address council? Okay. No city attorney's report. The city manager isn't here, so he can't make a report. City council committee reports. Anybody been anyplace?
I have a golf advisory board meeting tomorrow, so I'll get you guys updated the next
How much
council
longer is it
meeting.
going to be open? Is it still open?
They're gonna stay open year-round now, 24 hours a day. So toughen up, golfers.
It's not gonna storm.
I'm pretty sure this is our last golf advisory board meeting. You know, they try to stick it out till the frost gets too heavy and/or, the clientele the inclement weather is keeping people from showing up. But
Yeah.
we had a slow start because of weather, but we've had kind of an extended season, so that's kind of been nice.
Okay. All righty. Well, if there are no other committee reports, then basically the workshop session was dedicated to discussing community support grant requests, and we got those done, and those who received grant funds will be receiving a letter in the mail. Does anybody else have anything for... Let me ask Mike, the citizens request that council support a green light for a vet. How do we move forward on that?
Just mention it in the meeting.
I'm not sure exactly what, other than the council, I suppose you could issue some sort of a proclamation that we're declaring it, the city's declaring it.
Would that be something that you guys would be, the reason that I'm asking is that if we want to do this for the month of November, Veterans Day will occur before we meet again, and it would be kind of nice to get this out to community members, business owners, to see if they're interested in participating. Would you be amenable to us writing up a proclamation and getting it to the newspaper to do that?
There's a couple ways you could do this, I guess. One would be to make a motion to amend tonight's agenda to include a adoption of a proclamation supporting green light night. For something like this, I don't think it's as big a procedural thing as if it was approving major expenditures. Or you could, council could nod and have you do it and then retroactively approve it at the next meeting.
Well, what's council's pleasure? Would you like to amend the agenda very quickly? And
I say, my understanding, Mike, if you just said that correctly, we can give her authorization to do it and then we approve it retroactively.
Yes.
I'd like to read it.
Okay.
I mean, that's just, rather than just say we're making a proclamation with.
How about, just so that I can get it out to the newspaper prior to our November meeting, so we can get people on board, can I send it to you guys and get comments from you?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't have any issue
Is
with
that agreeable?
Yeah.
Everybody? Okay. All right, that's what we'll plan to do then. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the cause? We're adjourned.
Didn't he asked to change the zoning up there?
We denied him on 3 bases: distance, law enforcement, and